I'm in my hotel in New York City. I'm about to go do the Today Show. It's super fun. It's another Craft Your Closet with Orly, which is super cool when I see like that logo and I see my name and I see it on the DVR. It's always like really, really fun. I'm gonna share a full vlog of the trip, making the project, so you'll get like a couple of bonus DIYs, going downtown, shopping for the materials, and then here in New York and going to the studio and the behind the scenes and all of the stuff. So I know that I had originally said today was gonna be the before and after of the warehouse, but I didn't finish it. Now here's the thing, while it is a before and after, it's not a like before and after. It's still a warehouse. So there's not like that much cool, exciting transformation. It's really functional transformation. So anyway, that is going to come hopefully next week. It'll either be the Today Show or the warehouse. This week and that week will be how that works out. To share a realization that I had, because for me, it's like a pretty big shift, pivot. I don't really know what the right word is, but I was watching Shark Tank and I'm obsessed with Shark Tank. Like my whole life, I've loved that show. And now that I actually run a business and I know what some of the things they're talking about are, I really feel like I learn so much every time. And there was an episode of this girl who had a sockwear brand. It was like athletic hiking socks and stuff like that. And right off the bat, at face value, they were all very excited. The sales were really high. The company was seeming like, whoa. However, as often happens in Shark Tank, the further they got into it, the more problematic it seemed. And what it turned out to be is that she very early on got a huge opportunity with REI, which is like an outdoor, huge nationwide retailer that pulls in all different sort of outdoor lifestyle products. And it was like a huge deal and it was a huge quantity and a huge PO. And she was so excited she couldn't say no, but she didn't really have the means to market it properly. And so when all of those products went into the stores, they sort of sat and they didn't move. And if I remember correctly, they returned a lot of it to her. And so anyway, Mark Cuban was like, why are you in retail? Like, why are you not just focusing on D2C? And D2C means direct to consumer. And that is basically like a website, right? Like rocknot.com is D2C. I am the manufacturer and I am selling it directly to my customer. So in a sense, you're making like double margins, right? It's a more profitable way of doing business. Whereas when you're working with a retailer, let's say your product costs $100, you are selling it to that retailer for a 50, 60, sometimes 70% margin, which means they're only buying it for $30, $40, or $50. They're then making that margin to retail it for $100. So he was saying, why aren't you doing D2C? Retail just murders your margins. Like, why don't you just focus all your energy on building up your own e-com? Like, screw retail. And there was a moment for me when he said that gave me permission to be really excited about what I've built with the website. And not that it's a website, but really once I get into Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Neiman's, Saks, now I've made it. It suddenly made those things seem almost archaic, almost like broadcast television versus streaming. My whole life growing up, right, I'm 40, so like my whole life growing up, department stores, if you were like a designer, department stores are like the validation that you've made it. Like when I was on Fashion Star, some of you might remember the show, some of you might not. I was on a design competition show on NBC called Fashion Star. And the way the show worked is there was Elle McPherson was the host, then there were 3 mentors, kind of like The Voice style, and then the judges were the buyers from Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue, and H&M. And we would design clothing every week. We would send it down this big, fancy, shiny runway. And then the buyers, if they liked it, would bid on the item. And because we filmed it 6 months in advance and they were able to produce the goods, the audience watched the show, they saw it get bid on, and it was online and in stores the next day. Way before its time. It only ever did 2 seasons, but such a cool concept. That was it, right? Like, it wasn't about, oh, here's the money to launch your own e-com brand. It was, we're bidding on clothes to get them in department stores. That's the goal. And so I feel like for the longest time, that was my idea of success. Anyone can have a website. There's no barrier to entry there. Like, psh, who cares? But not everybody can be carried in these department stores. Only the best of the best. And forever, that's the way I thought about it. And then there was this moment when I was sitting on my ass watching Shark Tank, and I was like I felt like I was shaken out of that old way of thinking and into like 2025 where that's not really the case anymore. big retailers can be very hard to work with. Number one, they have really brutal payment terms. Sometimes they'll have payment terms of like net 90, which means they get 90 days from the day they receive the goods to pay you. 3 months before they have to pay you, and that's not including the 3 months where you had to have the money to produce the goods to get it to them. You are basically offering credit to a multi-$100 million or billion-dollar corporation. You, the small business, are essentially lending them the credit to front them so that they can then sell, and then they're paying you 90 days later, right? So financially, it can be very difficult. Obviously, the margins can be very difficult. If it doesn't sell through, they can return it to you. And now you have all of these units. What are you going to do with them? So there's a lot of reasons why it's not super ideal. What if instead of holding on to this idea that eventually I go to big box retail, what if instead I just say, no, I am taking that huge margin that I'm essentially giving away and I invest that in marketing my website, where I can own the customer experience. I can communicate more intimately with them about the brand messaging. When I have new arrivals, I can let them know what's in. Like, that is really powerful for me to do that. So what if I invest all of that money that I would be giving away in a wholesale margin, drive more traffic to the website, and I focus on boutiques? Because number one, I love the fact that they are always a small business, right? They are almost always, I have yet to have this experience where this is not the case, almost always woman owned, run by a woman in the community. A woman who lives in this community amongst these other women, opens up her own small business, her own shop to serve her community. Like, I love that. Financially, it's all very clean and simple. Here's the invoice, they pay it, I pack it, I ship it. Like, all of that is really easy. And so I feel like a bubble burst of the old way of validating any given business was that it was only legit if it was carried by a big retailer. And I had that moment when Anthropologie carried it, where like it made me feel like Rock Knot was legit and like should be taken seriously, because, well, if Anthropologie, you know, bet on me, why shouldn't you? Like, it did do that for me, right? But Anthropologie is not big box retail. Anthropologie still has that energy and feeling of like a nationwide boutique, kind of, which I love. There's no rules here, and I have no, you know, CEO. I am the CEO and founder and designer and all the things, and so I can do whatever I want. Like, I can change gears whenever I want. And I heard a quote, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something like, whoever's most flexible wins. Something like that. The idea that if you remain flexible with the ability to pivot, not only in your creativity, in your mind, in your plan, all of those things, you will come out ahead. And whoever's most flexible wins, something like that. And so I'm like, when I get new information, I act accordingly. Who's to say that if the right opportunity doesn't present itself, that I won't go ahead and do it? But I just think it released me from that feeling of working towards that goal, and that until that happened, I hadn't quite made it. That's not how I feel anymore. So anyway, I've been babbling for quite some time, and I've got to get ready to go to the Today Show to do my segments. I'm super stoked to share all of it with you. The vlog, the warehouse, all of the things. I love you so much. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful week.